Welcome to part 4 of our Parabolic SAR video series. In this section, we're going to be building a backtester to test how effective are the buy and sell signals from the indicator that we built in part 2. The idea here is to have actual stats, actual metrics, so we can see what did the P&L look like. Now here's how I've laid out this video. I'll start first by giving you a demo of what we're going to be building. Now for the backtester, there's two different versions. The free version, which we'll be building in today's video, and I also have a second part in which we're going to be building a pro version. For all Volatility Box members, this is included for free with your membership, and the main advantage of the pro version is it's going to save you time when you're actually analyzing the metrics. We'll build stat labels so that they appear on the top left on your chart, where it very quickly calculates for you winners versus losers, what was the average winner, what was the average loser, and it lets you visually see, well, is this a strategy worth taking? I'll show you how you can get the same data in the free version of the backtester as well, but it does require a little bit more time, a little bit more effort. After I give you a quick demo of both versions, we're going to get straight to writing the code. We'll take the indicator that we built in part 2 and transform it into a backtester. There's a few pieces we'll need to add, and we'll cover that entire process here so you know what the process of taking almost any indicator inside of ThinkOrSwim and turning it into a backtester looks like. Once we build the backtester and we have it available at our disposal, we'll start testing what this backtester's performance looks like on a variety of different markets, meaning what does the parabolic SAR look like with the indicator we built on different markets, different time frames, how effective is it, what does the drawdown period look like. For all Volatility Box members, again, we have a second piece of this tutorial in which we're going to be building that pro version, so be sure to check that out. That will allow you to know how you can build these stat labels and add them to a backtester, in this case, the parabolic SAR backtester, but you'll learn the process to actually do that so you can implement it for any of your future backtesters as well. All right, let's get started with taking a look at the demo. Now inside of ThinkOrSwim, I have just one indicator and our strategy loaded. This is the upper indicator that we built in part 2, and then I have the backtester of what we're going to be building in today's video. Now with that loaded on, you can see the backtester gives us a nice P&L graph right down here at the bottom. This allows you to see how the strategy has performed over time, what has the P&L looked like. For markets in which, say, you might have had negative periods, you can see that as well, and you may even see this mid-report, which gives you an idea of the type of drawdown that the strategy has had to endure over whatever time period you're looking at. Now for all Volatility Box members, I have a special version of this. So first off, if you wanted to see the stats on this free version, you would just right-click over the purple text, click Show Report, and there you can manually go through to see, well, what did the trades look like, how many winners, how many losers. In the case of the Dow, we had just 2 trades. In the S&P, a little bit more. So this requires a little bit more manual effort, but you can still get that data. Now for our pro version, here's what that looks like. Let me load that in. That will plot these 2 labels on the left-hand corner of your chart. It'll let you very easily see, okay, well, with our long side strategy, we've had 2 winners, 1 loser. The average winner was 6.35%. The average loser, negative 1.8%. Again, it's calculating these same metrics, but instead of you needing to dive deeper, it does all of the work for you. If you wanted to switch from the long to the short, simply just change that in the settings menu, and the stats are recalculated for you. Here you can see 2 winners, 5 losers, what the average winner is, what the average loser is. That's a lot faster than right-clicking, clicking Show Report, and then digging through to find the 2 winners and then the 5 losers that we already had very easily calculated for us inside of the labels. So that's the whole idea of these labels, and for all Volatility Box members, you'll learn how to add them to the backtester yourself. All right, with that out of the way, let's get started with writing some code. Going to come inside of my ThinkOrSwim platform, remove everything but the upper indicator from my charts, and I'll click the scroll icon and copy and paste all of the code from part 2 of what we created. We wrote this together, so if you're unfamiliar with this code, refer to part 2 of this tutorial. In fact, I would start with part 1, which will give you a good foundation for part 2, which then gives you a good foundation for part 3 and now leading into part 4. Now I've copied all of this code. To build a backtester, make sure you click the Strategies tab and then click Create, which will allow you to create a strategy. The default code inside that you see should be this add order code. Now we can delete this code, and I'm going to paste in all of our parabolic SAR upper indicators code instead. This gives us a good starting point. I'll rename our backtester to TI_parabolic SAR, and we can come all the way down at the bottom and start adding in the custom code required for our backtester. Now for our backtester, the main thing we need to give ThinkOrSwim is what is our place where we want to have a buy order for the bullish condition, and where do we want to sell that order? What is the closing price? We need to have this for both the bullish and the bearish conditions. So let's start first with our bullish conditions. The way we give that information to ThinkOrSwim is by using the add order function. And for our bullish condition, we're going to say add order, order type. And you should have noticed in the drop downs, you had a few different options. Let's see if we can pull that up again. You have buy auto, buy to close, buy to open, sell auto, sell to close, and sell to open. Since we're looking at our buy side opening order, we're going to be using order type buy to open. That will autofill this for us, which just makes it a little bit faster. Now, the next thing we need to add in here is what is our Boolean condition, meaning what condition needs to be true in order for this add order entire trigger to actually happen. Now, for that, for us, is the buy signal. We have that very clearly defined. This is what gives us the buy and sell arrows. So I can just copy buy signal and paste that in. That's the variable which needs to be true for the buy order to trigger. In terms of our entry price, we're simply going to be using the closing price. And for our quantity, I'll use a quantity of 1. Now, the second piece is our closing order for this opening order. So similar to what we did here, if I type order type, this time we're going to do sell to close since we're selling to close this already open order. So I'll click sell to close there. Now, what our selling condition is, I'm going to keep it quite simple, and I'm going to make our selling condition where our state is equal to state.short, and our previous state was state.long, meaning it wasn't state.short, and that way we know that we're getting out as soon as we see the state has changed conditions here. So I'll show you what that looks like visually in just a second, but let me close that out. For our price, we'll use the closing price one more time, and we'll close out our full quantity. Now here we're getting an error which says there's no such parameter as state. The reason we're getting this error is we need to say state is equal to state.short, and here we already saying that it's not equal to it. What we're checking if I come up is, if you remember from part 1 where we took a look at all of these states, if we're looking at a buy side condition, then we're going to get out as soon as we've now entered a short side state. That's what this is doing. We're saying, hey, our current state is short, and on the previous bar, our state was not short, meaning our state was long. I'll click OK here, apply, and now we can see our buy side orders are already plotting with our backtester. We have the Boolean arrow right here. This happened when we still had a pink dot. Our backtester is using the closing price from that candle in which the arrow triggered. It's plotting that on the next bar, but using the closing price from our actual buy side arrow. It's taking this position and continuing to hold it all the way until we switch to the state of short, which you can see happens when we have this pink dot right here. And it's using the closing price from that candle for the actual exit price right here. And it's doing that on the next day. So it's using the right closing price, just a ThinkOrSwim feature where that will populate on the next bar after the actual entry and exit conditions are filled. So that's how this backtester is working, and we now have the buy side plotting for us here. Now let's come back inside of our code. I'm going to click the scroll icon, come all the way down at the bottom, and we're going to add in our sell side conditions for our short entries as well. So let's repeat this process. I'll say add order. This time we're going to use order type dot sell to open. Here, our Boolean condition, as you guessed it, is going to be sell signal. We'll use the closing price for our entry, and I'm going to just use a quantity of 1. For our closing condition for this, we're going to say order type dot buy to close. We're going to have to buy this one to close it. For our condition here, our Boolean condition, our state will need to have transitioned to a state.long, long, and our previous bar state must not have been the state dot, state dot long. And we'll use our closing price one more time and a quantity of 1. Okay, so now let's also add in 2 additional variables up here, which will be long entries and short entries. And we need to set one to true and the other to false. I found that helps you avoid a lot of ThinkOrSwim glitches, is looking at just the buy side orders. So you see all of those bundled together in just the sell side orders. Otherwise, if you have one stepping on the other's toe, it often leads to some errors. So if we come down here and we use that long and short entries to tie that into our actual opening condition. So I'll say long entries needs to have been set to yes for this buy signal to also be true for our buy to open strategy to account that. Similarly, for our short side, I'll say short entries and sell signal here. And now if we click apply, and we look at the same SPY chart, now if I double click, we're able to see the winners versus losers here. So the 2 winners, 1 loser for the S&P 500 on the daily time frame chart. I can switch to a 5-minute time frame chart, and with overnight activity, I can still see the trades there that triggered overnight. So we know that this is working on different time frames. Now let's see if this works if I turn off long entries and I turn on short entries instead. And there we can see the same P&L graph here showing and plotting for our short side. If you don't see this P&L graph, by the way you can turn that on is by clicking the study settings icon, come into strategy settings, click global strategy settings down here at the bottom, and make sure this setting is turned on, this display floating P&L. That's what plots this floating P&L that you see on our charts. Now, one other thing that we can very quickly add is a quantity setting where I might say something like quantity, set this equal to a default of 1, but just in case you wanted to modify that, this allows you to do it directly from the studies settings menu, and I can tie that quantity here where I had 1 instead, so instead of being hard-coded, it's a little bit more dynamic. So let's paste that in. And now if I click apply and OK, we should have our final backtester. I can adjust the quantity directly from the study settings menu if I want, and that will automatically update this P&L number that you see right down here on your charts on the bottom right. And if you right click and you click show report, you can also see that P&L number right down here along with the order breakdown. All right, now let's test this on a few different markets. We've tested out the long and short side triggers. Let's go back to long entries. And let's come into, let's say, NVIDIA. I know that's been a stock a lot of people are looking at. And let's come into a 5-minute time frame chart and get a sense for how many entries we've had over the past, let's say instead of 5 days, 30 days. So this allows us to see slightly longer term performance. I can right click, show report. I get all of the trade breakdowns here of what this particular strategy long side only would have performed inside of NVIDIA. P&L of nearly $7,800 over 10 trades. Now let's see, well, does the same bias, this positive bias, hold true if we were to switch to the short side? We know NVIDIA has had a nice run. It makes sense for that P&L number to be high. Well, on the short side, if we take a look at the report here, we still have a positive P&L number, but it took nearly the same amount of trades, and you can see how less effective that P&L is compared to what we saw on the long side. However, the fact that the strategy still performs positively both on the long and short side gives you some hope to dive a little bit deeper. That's where I still think that having the labels makes it a lot easier to see, well, what is the average winner versus the loser? And that's your next step to dive a little bit deeper. Instead of NVIDIA, let's look at, say, Tesla now. We're still on that 5-minute, 30-day chart. I can right-click, click Show Report. This is looking at the short side entry still. And here we can see a positive P&L, 385 over 7 trades. And if I were to switch this from short entries to long entries and click apply, we can see that here the strategy has not been a good one to follow. Very easy to see that with this red P&L bar. And if I right click and click show report, we can also see a negative P&L number over the same 10 trades. So that's how you use this backtester. Again, for all Volatility Box members, be sure to check out part 2. Instead of needing to do that whole show report business that you saw here to dive deeper, we'll create labels that makes it very easy to see in the top left corner exactly how many winners versus losers you have, what is the average winner versus the average loser, and this adapts over different time frames so you don't need to keep recalculating that manually. All right, Volatility Box members, I'll see you in the next part. For everyone else, I hope you found this next part in our Parabolic SAR series to be useful. A quick recap of everything we've done so far. In part 1, we built a better foundation breaking down the Parabolic SAR indicator in more detail, cracking it open, and using that foundation to build a smarter version of the indicator in part 2. In part 3, we took that indicator and we turned it into a scan so it was a lot easier to find all of these signals that we thought were slightly smarter. In this section, we took a way to find all of those signals, all of the indicator stuff, and turn those into actual metrics where you can evaluate, well, how good is this setup? Or rather, is this a setup you want to avoid? So we've now built a way to essentially build a complete picture for the Parabolic SAR indicator, and we can continue building upon this here on out. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in our next update.